So this is TarotLumination. It is Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. In 2 hours from now, the whole world is going to be watching this ridiculous circus between Donald and Joe. It's all highly staged, of course, as you know. And there's going to be all sorts of, let's say, conditions imposed on the prize fighters. I got a little tip-off from Love Triber, who got a tip-off from Joshua Reed that the actual event is going to be held kind of in a private setting at CNN headquarters in Atlanta. And all the press and media will only be able to view the whole event from a separate screening in another building across the street. So that tells you the whole thing is heavily staged right from the get-go. That's one thing I'm noticing. Another thing I'm noticing, it's kind of perverse and strange that Donald agreed to this situation in the first place, considering that it's CNN that's actually hosting the debate, and CNN is pretty much one of the major media enemies of Donald. But Donald probably thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, let's make it a spectacle. Hello, Juanita. Good evening. Where are you, Juanita? I'm just doing a little preamble before the big event tonight, because I have some opinions that I'd like to share with people regarding the astrology of what's happening at this moment in time. One of my opinions is that this is a very historical moment astrologically for the United States and for the two prize fighters, Grandpa Joe and Donald. You're over in Missouri. Okay. So you're probably, let's see, an hour different. So it's 4, 5, okay. Oh, you just dropped in. Okay, fine. Anyway, I normally do astrology and tarot readings live on a Sunday night. Most of the time the channel is demonetized, doesn't make any money, but if people want, they can make donations. I'll show that later on. But anyway, I just wanted to share a couple things. 6 here. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I'm not going to. So I made a couple. I've been sort of dreaming about it for a few days now. Like, what is going on? What am I sensing? What is it that seems a little strange about this whole thing? Hello, Love Triber. And so, of course, as usual, I default to the astrology, and as usual, I blame the planets for everything. I guess you could say the good and the bad and the ugly. It's a question of choice. The energies are what they are. They're beautiful, they're divine, and how we respond to them is our choice. You know, you can choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice. Like, you could be in Gaza right now and your whole life is destroyed. Let's say you're a woman with 3 children and you lost your husband and all your 3 little children are dead and you're still alive. But yeah, and you're in a state of complete trauma and tragedy. Of course, it's pretty difficult to find joy in your heart in a situation like that, but some people do. They understand there's something divine going on and they're part of some amazing story that's unfolding. It's interesting when you look at the news across the world on a global scale, when you realize the degree of trauma and tragedy that's happening simultaneously. There's at least 2 billion people on Earth right now alive today whose lives are, I would say, barely marginal, where they're lucky to get food at all, water, shelter, heating, cooling, health. Millions and millions and millions of people are surrounded by war, blood, tragedy from which there is effectively no escape, and so on. It's very, very tragic. But at the same time, the beauty of life is just staggering and mind-boggling. And when you consider the contradictory energies of things like love and compassion and beauty and freedom, it's all happening simultaneously. Birth and death, pain and joy. It's all happening simultaneously. I feel very, very fortunate. I feel like I'm a very lucky man, a very wealthy man, a very happy man, a very blessed man. But I've had so many multiple tragedies, near death. But again, on a global scale, you know how I complain about the elites who live at the very, very top of the pinnacles of power and money and control? I'm not one of them, but I almost feel like I have the same privileges. I have clean water. I have shelter. I can stay warm. I can stay cool. I have transportation. I have communications. I have lots of self-defense. I still have a relatively high degree of freedom compared to millions of people, compared to billions of people. So I'm just trying to give you a little preamble here, because the theme on which I'm going to focus is mostly to do with the Pisces energy right now, because in some ways the Pisces energy embodies everything I just described. Pisces can translate into your direct connection with the divine, with God, with angels, with heaven, with your invisible friends, being powerfully psychic, very powerful dreams, premonitions, being able to connect with animals, being able to transmit the healing power of love through your hands across 10,000 miles. Okay? All of those things you can associate with Neptune if you want to. Divine art, divine inspiration, divine music, divine beauty, divine love, supreme compassion, miraculous healing. All these amazing qualities that come with a very powerful, healthy Neptune energy. In contrast, the Neptune Pisces 12th house energy can also represent some of the hardest, most ugly and tragic, painful, squalid, disgusting forms of experience and energy that exist here on Earth. Classically would be lies, betrayal, deception, bribery, corruption, manipulation, lust, perversion, crime, invisible crime, weapons of mass destruction that are portrayed as instruments of salvation, and on and on and on. Chemicals that are supposed to heal you, which are in fact designed to kill you, and so on and so on. Basically, evil, pure evil, wrapped up as some kind of divinely packaged candy. Love Triber is saying, and you get to pick which wolf you feed. So anyway, yeah, do you want to feed happiness or do you want to feed the monster? So anyway, At this very moment in time, we've got transits going on. The planets are moving around doing what they do. Humanity is going through massive historical convulsions. A lot of it is pivoting around Pluto, the energy of Pluto. If you follow the Pluto cycles every 250 years, we're at the very, 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 very final last degrees of the Pluto cycle in Capricorn, 29 degrees, which is a nightmare. And at the very beginning of the Pluto in Aquarius, which is a completely different vibe. It's the energy of extreme perversions of power and money and control taken to the limits, where it's become so obvious on planet Earth that the elites, who, some of them live right here and work from this office right here, the only thing they care about is power, money, and control. And whatever they have to do to get that, that's all they care about. It doesn't matter who dies. It doesn't matter how they lie. Whatever thing they have to do to get what they want. To get to these positions of power, they mostly have to be elected. But a lot of them in these positions of power are not elected. They are behind the scenes in a very, very deceptive, deceitful energy field. It presents itself as we are here to save you, where in fact what they're doing is they're harvesting your life force for themselves. Think of them as a massive cancerous tumor, okay? Massive cancerous tumor that has become stage 4, stage 5 metastatic, and it is now spread throughout the whole body of the United States of America. In fact, it's worse than that. It's throughout the whole world. The United States Federal Reserve banking system is part of this system. And the Federal Reserve Bank itself is the most powerful institution in the world. It may not look like it. It's just a big old white building, sort of like this one, with a bunch of people with suits and ties inside, just milling around with computers and telephones and meetings. But they control the global financial system. Even BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Blackstone, and all the others, Berkshire Hathaway, are completely and utterly beholden to the United States Federal Reserve banking system and what those people do. Talk about power, money, and control. So right now, those people are in a point of extreme desperation because their pinnacle of power, think of this as a sort of a chart, a graph, okay? And my tippy fingers represent a couple of thousand, people at the very, very top of the global pinnacles of power, money, and control. They are in a very, very precarious position right now, and they know it. And they're going to continue to lie, cheat, steal, betray, undermine, kill, to keep their power, money, and control to the very last second possible. And that's what's happening live right now. Neptune dissolves everything it touches in terms of the astrology. Wherever you find Neptune in your chart, you may find the energy of idealism, beauty, universal compassion, the most well-meaning, well-intended energies of love and harmony and divine inspiration and gifts. But at the same time, the unhealthy expression could be alcoholism, perversion, depravity, theft, crime on a mass scale. It's a very, very hard energy to handle. The Neptune energy is extremely, extremely hard for people to handle. If people are born with astrology where there's like a very conflicted Neptune, it can be a very tough life. So anyway, a couple of things are happening right now in the astrology. We've got a very powerful Pisces transit with Saturn, Neptune, and the Moon. We have a powerful transit with Cancer energy, Sun, Mercury, and Venus. The Scorpio isn't involved here. So that's a lot of watery energy. We've also got the Taurus energy and so on. And I think rather than getting too technical or complicated, because I'm not even very good at that stuff anyway, I go mostly through, I would say, divine intuition at best. I'm an artist and a writer and a musician at core, but it's right now very hard for me to be that, so I'm doing this, okay? Anyway, tonight, right now, we're at a historical moment. The whole world knows it, and it's in the form of a debate. They're calling it a debate in Washington between Grandpa Joe and our Donald. And there's so many different opinions coming out about this. Like, what's going on here? What's the point? Donald is going to crush Joe. Donald's going to humiliate Joe. We're dealing with Neptune energy here. It's very, very powerful. I'm going to show you why in just a second when I get to the charts. What I'm allowing for is the law of unexpected consequences to be very, very active right now. The Cancerian energy and the Neptune energy are extremely favorable for Grandpa Joe at the moment in terms of transits. Okay? The Gemini energy is helpful. You know, there's Jupiter for Donald. The Cancerian Pisces energy that's happening live right now is also extremely powerful and supportive for Donald. This is tricky. So even though some people might feel that this is an unfair fight, some people are seeing this as one of these extremely volatile, high-risk, ultimate fighting champion type scenarios where you've got two extreme prize fighters, both from very different perspectives, behaviors, belief systems, going face to face. Some people think Joe is just going to sit there going, and he's going to fall over. And they're going to jack him up with energy chemicals and whatever. And he's going to be all scripted, and the CIA has already replaced him with a Grandpa Joe stand-in with a really effective silicone mask with earphones and microphones and all these kind of, teleprompters and everything like that to make Grandpa Joe invincible. Donald, of course, is going to be quite different. He's just going to be there in his full self. Now, Donald likes the UFC, Ultimate Fighting Champion. Donald has the astrology of a prize fighter. The uglier it gets, the stronger he becomes. Okay, I'm not going to go into that now with the astrology, but he literally is like a prize fighter. The more you try to take him down, the more he grows in power. He has the ability to suck your power out of you, infuse it into himself, and turn it back on the perpetrator. On the other hand, Grandpa Joe is an extremely highly skilled expert at the laws of deception, lies, betrayal. And he's been doing it his whole life. He doesn't know anything else. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. My personal feeling is that it's either going to turn into some kind of completely lopsided destruction where Grandpa Joe is going to be completely and utterly pulverized by Donald. Or it could go the other way, where Donald has been unwittingly sucked into a cage fight using his bravado and courage and bluster, not fully aware of all the shenanigans going on behind the veil, behind the scenes. Remember, this is all staged by CNN and the mainstream media, and they all hate Donald. So in some ways, it's a highly unbalanced, unstaged, unbalanced setting. Excuse me, sorry, it shouldn't be ringing. But again, Donald likes to defy the odds. It's just like, okay, this is going to be an away fight. I'm going to fight on their home team. So it's like, it's going to be very interesting. I'm really, really reluctant to watch. I'm being enticed to watch, but I really don't want to. It is going to be a circus like nothing else. For people who are just arriving, I was informed that the actual debate, so-called debate, it's a staged event, is going to be inside the CNN building in Atlanta, but it's a completely private event, and all the cameras and everything are transmitting into a separate building across the street in which the mainstream media, all the media, will actually be hanging out. And apparently the reason is because there's a potential for a medical emergency that might happen because the stress levels could become so high. And it may be necessary to have an instantaneous blackout of the event. Does this sound like theater to you? Anyway, so let me go to the stage here a minute. I'm going to kind of give you my opinions. Here we are today, right now. This is it. This is the day. And I'm going to point out a few transits, very, very loosely, the same transits. The big transits that I'm concerned about are over here in Cancer. We've got Sun. Oh, sorry, let me put that over here. We've got Sun, Venus, and Mercury. Okay, all happening at the same time over here. Now, those are the ones I'm focused on. These transits here in Cancer, and these transits here in Pisces. I don't know, who should we go first? Where should we go first? Over here, let's do Donald. Okay, so let's pretend this is the Donald chart. I'm really, really streamlining and stripping down the chart to a couple of essentials here. And I'm just going to focus on the astrology that concerns me personally right now. Donald has a Leo ascendant, very, very powerful Leo ascendant. He is literally the lion warrior. He is the king of the jungles. Pluto conjoined Mars in Leo. You cannot be more dominant as a leader than that. It's not possible. You cannot possibly have a more powerful warrior capability profile besides Pluto conjoined Mars in Leo. It's fierce, it's indestructible. So, bear that in mind. Donald has a very powerful Gemini-Sagittarius axis, okay? He's born with the Sun, Uranus, North Node, and something else, whatever it is. Anyway, up here in Gemini, okay, in the 10th house of career and status in the world. It's a very powerful placement, okay? Year of the Dog, 1946. I didn't know that. And over here, this is his nodal axis. He has the moon positioned on the south node in Sagittarius. The south node in Sagittarius indicates that he knows everything. He's convinced that he's traveled everywhere, done everything, lived dozens of lifetimes, where he's explored the universe and studied everything, and he's smarter and wiser than you could possibly imagine. And he's not afraid to voice his feelings, because Sagittarius is very, very blunt, open energy. Sagittarius, as you probably know, is very well known for being very blunt and calling out the truth, even if it hurts. Oh God. So over here in his North Node, the idea is to, let's say, temper some of this out of control energy over here, which is heavily emotionally fused and very closely tied to his persona and the way he feels things. And yet he has to find a way to tone down his language in such a way that the average person can digest it without feeling as though they're being offended or dominated. So the Sun in Gemini, conjoined Uranus and North Node in Gemini, is an extremely powerful alignment for speaking truth in very radical, very disruptive, highly unpredictable manners that can be just impossible to circumvent. You cannot circumvent the truth, because the truth is coming here and it's funneled through here and it comes out there. And so that's his lifelong born duty. With the Sun conjoined North Node, it's an extremely powerful alignment. He's living out his North Node journey, okay, to express, to be a warrior leader. Okay, next, move on. He also has very powerful energy here in, where is it? Taurus. Wait a minute, he's got a couple more things. A couple more things in the Cancer. I don't think I put everything in here. But he's got a lot of Cancerian energy here as well. There's, of course, the Pluto stuff. His Cancer energy is... oh, I got it all wrong. Hold on. Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. Okay, there it is. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. So, to me, this is extremely interesting because this is his 11th house. This is the house of we the people. This is the house of Aquarius that's ruled by Pluto. Interesting. So, he may not show it, but he's very, very much in love with the United States. He's a family man. He loves his family. He loves the family of humanity. He loves people. He loves communicating with people. He loves being swarmed with people. Look at what happens. He fills up stadiums, 50,000 people at a time. Joe Biden can barely fill up a coffee shop. I will go on. Okay, so I mentioned this one. Okay? Now, this transit's very powerful for Donald. All this Cancerian energy is really lighting up and empowering all his Cancerian energy, which is also very powerfully harmonized inside his own nature. Despite the signs, we're talking about the angles here, okay? So he's very powerful over here, he's very powerful over here, he's very powerful here. Power, power, power. Now here's the tricky part. Here's the transit. This is a very precarious transit. We have Saturn, Moon, and Neptune, all in Pisces. And right now the Moon is going to be conjoined with Neptune in Pisces. So it's going to be an extremely psychic, powerful, quick conjunction. And it's going to be in an extremely hard square with the nodal axis for Donald. Okay? So my feeling is that it could be extremely easy for Donald to slip up. Imagine he's a cage fighter, an extremely powerful, very capable cage fighter who is just waiting to rip out the throat of Grandpa Joe. And he steps into the ring and the words start moving around. And everything looks very, very staged and fake because of the way that it's all hosted through CNN. okay, and all the mainstream media. The mainstream media is represented by this energy right now. So Donald has the energy of deception, lies, betrayal, fraud, corruption, all pushing very, very, very hard against him. Okay? Now, it just so happens that the Pisces energy is indirectly very supportive to here and here, but it's also, anyway. So this is extremely challenging for Donald. However, I want to mention that because of the way he's built, his core nature, I mentioned earlier that the more he is attacked, the more vicious he will become. And if he starts, even though he's probably been well groomed and well rehearsed for this event, if he starts to seriously feel threatened by this energy here, to the point where, let's say, the theater is starting to become very, very unsettled, then there's a very good possibility that he will, the politics will become savage and he will take off the gloves. The whole world is watching right now, and a lot of people believe that everything will be very staged and Donald will be heavily groomed to be, let's say, very, very polite and kind and understanding and cooperative and collaborative with the whole event. However, my feeling is that there's a possibility that there's something that'll happen that we cannot predict, because this is highly unpredictable energy here. And this is highly unpredictable energy here. As we all know, Donald himself is highly unpredictable. He can just flip like that, thanks to the Uranus. So my feeling is that even though it's probably highly choreographed, there's a possibility the whole thing could come really unhinged in such a way that it might be very difficult for the, let's say, the moderators of the show to stay in control, stay in charge of Donald. It's very possible, my feeling is that Donald could completely demolish the whole event if he feels threatened enough. Now, will that backfire against him, where people turn against him and think, my God, Donald is the most savage, ruthless monster. He just shredded Joe. On the other hand, the shenanigans going on over here could trip up Donald in such a way that he gets utterly humiliated live on stage. Even with all the rehearsals and the choreography in the background, there's a very high possibility he could become seriously unhinged, like a cage fighter who's going for the kill, and then he slips up because his feet are all sweaty. You know, something like that. So that's my perceptions right now. Let's go to Grandpa Joe. It's a very different story. Here's Grandpa Joe, 20th of November 1942. He's a Scorpio, multiple Scorpio, stellium, Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars, all piled up here in the 12th house. Okay? Now, it's not surprising that a presidential figure has huge amounts of energy piled up in the 12th house, because the 12th house also represents secrecy. Okay? It's the 12th house, Neptune, Pisces energy. It's the house of the hidden enemy. So, this is a very powerful stellium that Joe has. It's in the energy of Scorpio. And Scorpio energy has a huge amount of hidden, invisible power that can be very, very hard to control. Not only that, Joe was born with a powerful Cancerian element. Sun, Venus, and Mars in Cancer. And that's in very deep harmony with the Scorpio Cancer energy. And so we have this massive Pisces stellium cruising through. So that creates this big fat, I'll just kind of draw it in here, this seemingly powerful, invincible stellium, like a trine, harmonious trine that looks sort of like this. Okay? Now remember, this is very, very transient. Okay? The tricky part is that this trine is based on the energy of the 12th house in the worst expression possible. Lies, deception, betrayal, fraud, crime. Okay. So I wouldn't rest too heavily on this if I was Joe. Now another thing with which Joe is born is this massive red opposition here. Now in terms of the planet signs itself, it's not such a big deal at first sight. There's this Gemini stuff over here. Saturn and Uranus in Gemini, right over here, close to the horizon. Same thing over here, close to the horizon. All of this opposes this. All of this opposes this. This is extremely unstable energy here in Gemini. Extremely unstable energy here with Saturn in Gemini. Guess what? Even though we've got this big fat green trine right now, underlying it is an absolutely vicious square from the transiting Neptune onto Grandpa Joe's Gemini vibes over here. So he might be overly confident, thinking that he can get through anything because he's been doing it his whole life. His motivation in life is this little yod right here. Do you see this? It's onto the 5th house in Taurus, okay? He has a massive driving compulsion to get money, make money, have money, money, money. If he can't avoid it. It's like he was born with some kind of extreme lust for money, but he has no natural business talents. However, he has this incredible gift of the 12th house here, which allows him to operate as like an invisible force. The thing about the 12th house regarding secrecy, why it's very important for presidential leadership figures to have this, it can be very advantageous, because it means if you're in a position of extreme power, like Grandpa Joe, you have to be able to carry the energy of extreme secrecy. Some of the secrets that he's carrying is that he is, in fact, almost the perfect example of lies, deception, betrayal, theft, corruption, scams, all happening behind the scenes while he presents himself as the most noble character possible. 12th house, hard opposition here. So the reality is, deep in the heart of his soul, you see, these are all fast planets over here, but deep in his soul with Uranus and Saturn, it's an extreme opposition. Deep in his soul, he knows he's a criminal. He's a criminal of the highest order, and he has used his exquisite skills, outstanding exquisite skills at lies, deception, betrayal, fraud, crime, to get away with it. Right up to the age of 21 or 22. But he may be coming to a point of reckoning here. We don't know. There are a lot of people in my community who believe that this guy is running a criminal empire, along with Alejandro Mayorkas, Merrick Garland, the FBI, the CIA, the CDC, Big Pharma, military-industrial complex, big media, big tech, and so on and so on. They all work together, especially the Federal Reserve banking system, because that's how they get money. Scorpio Taurus axis, that's the money axis. Joe is basically the front man. He's the bag man for all this Washington dirty money. Okay? So he's coming under a microscope tonight in just a matter of an hour and a half or so. And he's going to meet a very formidable character. Now, people are laughing at Joe because they, say he's very feeble and stuff. But the fact is, in some ways, he's very, very, very powerful. And he has the support of the elites. Okay? So, in some ways, and it's an extremely balanced match, even though some people say that Donald is just going to wipe the floor, just going to crush Joe and turn him to pulp. Some people are thinking Joe is just going to lie his way through or talk his way through and speak his version of the truth and humiliate Donald live in front of billions of people. What's it going to be? What's it going to be, folks? I'm going to go back over here. Okay. So, I just gave you an overview of my opinions about what's happening right now. The whole thing makes me nauseous thinking of it right now. I'm highly averse. The Neptune energy is in some ways very beautiful for me personally because of my own astrology, but there's also the curse side to it as well. And I've lived with both. I still live with both. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's why this is such a spectacle. Because if we all knew what was going to happen, if we all knew in advance that Donald is just going to crush Joe, then where's the sport in that? You all know that the biggest, most exciting matches when it comes to boxing or horse racing or cockfighting or pit bull fighting or cage fighting is when you get two people in the ring extremely evenly matched. And then that sets the whole gambling betting world on fire. Everybody who thinks Grandpa Joe's going to win is going to bet on Joe. Everybody who thinks Donald's going to win is going to bet on Donald. But it's a possibility it could be very evenly matched. And that's why I believe it's going to attract quite a lot of global attention. Because nobody really knows. The Neptune energy is so strong. It's going to be Moon 29 degrees conjoined Neptune 29 degrees. I don't know how wacko you can get. I don't know how much more wacko you can get. The Uranus energy, of course, is going to play into it. Cancerian energy. Remember I forgot one thing, couple of things. Hold on. Give me a minute. A couple of things I wanted to mention. When I look at deep examinations of the astrology of Donald, it's impossible for me to ignore the concept of past lives, the concept of reincarnation, the concept of having been born into this particular lifetime to live this particular life as this particular person at this point in history in the United States of America. We are literally living through history right now. It's a 250-year historical moment. Now, because it's based mostly around Pluto, it's got a 5 or 10-year orb on the Capricorn side. Sorry, I don't have my other charts with me. It's a 5 or 10-year orb on the Capricorn side and a 5 or 10-year orb on the Aquarius side of the cusp. The cusp is between Capricorn and Aquarius. So it's about a 10-year cusp over which this historical event is happening. It's not just tonight. It isn't just last week, last month. The way it really started for me personally, the exact moment of the beginning of the cusp was here, January 2020, when Pluto was in 27.5 degrees retrograde conjoined Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn at the birth degree for the United States. bammo. Okay, January 2020. That's when the bomb hit. The Pluto bomb hit. It's like a nuclear bomb. A very, very deep bunker bomb, like an EMP. And then it goes... We didn't really feel it on the global stage till March 2020, when the lockdowns happened. And everything since that moment, since January 2020, has been part of the shockwave of the original bomb of January 2020. We're living in it right now, and Pluto is retrograding back into the Capricorn 29.5 degree of desperation. So the history, we're deep in this epochal moment of history, and it's going to drag out for at least a few more years till we move fully into the chapter of Pluto in Aquarius, which is going to be global revolution. Everywhere on Earth, every country, every population, every entity of life, especially the global financial system. Okay? Just giving you a heads up. But anyway, Donald is born with powerful Cancerian elements conjoined with America's Cancerian elements. Okay? Can't escape that. Actually, let me do it over here. I do have it. I did this the other night. Okay, this is two charts on top of each other. Okay? There is a chart for America with key aspects highlighted here. This one, and this one. The Leo-Aquarius axis, very powerful. The Cancer-Capricorn axis, very powerful. The Sagittarius-Gemini axis, very powerful. Kaboom. It's the same thing with Donald. It's an exact match. That's beyond astrological freakishness. That's beyond statistical randomness. That's reincarnation. That's how I look at it. Donald is here for a reason. He's here to live through this moment of history to represent a certain group of people by using his power and his voice. That's what's happening right now. Over here, look at this. Joe. He's got all this energy in Scorpio. Joe was born with Sagittarius rising, just like America. He's born with 3 planets in Cancer, just like America. Sorry, he's born with Jupiter in Cancer, just like America. He's got a very powerful Gemini section over here, just like America. Okay? I believe Joe reincarnated at this time because he believed that this is his golden moment to shine as the person he really is, which is probably the most successful criminal on earth ever in history. Maybe there's Xi Jinping, maybe a couple of others, but I would say Grandpa Joe. I'm not talking in terms of absolute dollars and money that he accrued. I'm talking about the extent of crime that he has, I guess, represented. It's mind-boggling. I think Joe is here through reincarnation and destiny to be here at this exact moment in time, facing off with this character at this moment in time. These are 2 historical figures. This moment in time will go down in the history books. Okay, so I'm just sharing that. Fate, destiny, reincarnation. It's all happening simultaneously. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyway, I'm just giving you my little sort of preamble before showtime. I really don't want to do this because it's going to be on the media, and then hosts are going to dissect it and pull it apart. and they're going to show how it was such an amazing win for Joe, and other people are going to say, man, this was such an amazing win for Donald. It's going to change the world, okay? Hey all, Necessary Truth, good evening. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little video. Thank you for hanging out with me here, and I'll see you next time, okay?